Hello brothers, and welcome to Sigma Old Man channel. Intelligence isn't always a blessing. It's often a weapon, and in the wrong hands, it's terrifying. Throughout history, the most underestimated minds weren't the loud ones. They were the quiet outliers who refused to follow the script. Thinkers who saw 3 steps ahead, while the rest were still struggling with step 1. In fact, studies show that people with higher intelligence often experience deeper isolation, not because they're antisocial, but because the average person simply can't keep up. Now imagine that level of intellect fused with the Sigma male's refusal to conform, beg for validation, or play by society's tired rules. That's not just rare, it's unnerving. The Sigma male's intelligence is not the flashy type you can clap for on stage. It's the kind that makes entire rooms second-guess themselves, the kind that quietly dismantles manipulation before it even begins. And if that doesn't sound terrifying yet, consider this. While most people spend their energy proving how smart they are, the Sigma is already 3 moves deep into making everyone else wonder if they ever stood a chance. And yes, sometimes it feels unfair, almost like watching someone play chess against pigeons. But that's the exact reason why Sigma male intelligence isn't just intriguing. It's genuinely terrifying. Number 1, they understand systems, not just people. Most people spend their lives trying to understand people. They want to decode body language, moods, and personalities, but they stop there. Sigma males go much further. Their intelligence allows them to see not just individuals, but the invisible structures that control those individuals. They don't just analyze the person standing in front of them. They analyze the system that person is trapped inside. It's the reason Sigmas can walk into a job, a group, or a culture and immediately understand how the gears turn. They notice who really holds the influence, which rules are rigid, which ones are fake, and how people unconsciously obey them. While most get tangled in office gossip or social rituals, the Sigma steps back and studies the entire machinery. He doesn't just see boss versus employee, he sees a hierarchy that feeds off fear, compliance, and reward. Once he understands the system, he knows exactly where to apply pressure. That's what makes his intelligence terrifying. He isn't limited to playing games with people, he rewires the whole game board. Others argue with the puppet, he studies the strings, the puppet master, and the theater itself. And when he chooses, he can break the entire show with one quiet move. This ability to understand systems means the Sigma can navigate institutions without needing to be liked or even noticed. He's not interested in impressing the crowd. He's interested in understanding how the crowd was built in the first place. That's why he often rises without campaigning, influences without begging, and wins without announcing he's playing. Most people can't even see the cage they're in, but the Sigma already knows where the door is, and sometimes he's the one holding the key. What unsettles others is that he doesn't flaunt this skill. He doesn't give away his blueprint or advertise his strategy. He lets people believe he's just doing his own thing, when in reality, he's running mental models of how entire systems bend and break. That quiet mastery is what keeps people guessing, second-guessing, and occasionally fearing him. Because the truth is, when you can read systems this well, you don't need to dominate people directly. You simply let the system do it for you. Number 2, they understand power in its raw form. Most people get distracted by the packaging of power. They confuse titles, wealth, or loud personalities with real influence. Sigma males don't make that mistake. Their intelligence cuts straight through the show. They see power as it actually is: leverage, control of resources, control of attention, and control of outcomes. Stripped of the nice speeches and moral posturing, Power is just the ability to make things happen or stop them from happening. And that's exactly what Sigmas study. This is why they're rarely fooled by authority. A boss may look powerful, but if the Sigma notices that employees quietly ignore his orders, or that his position depends entirely on one investor, he knows the man is just a prop. A celebrity may seem influential, but if their relevance hangs on an algorithm, a platform, or public sympathy, the Sigma knows it can all collapse overnight. Where others see a king, the Sigma sees a man balancing on a shaky throne. By understanding power in its raw form, Sigma males can anticipate shifts before anyone else notices them. They watch for the subtle signs, a faltering tone, a missing ally, a silent change in policy, that signals someone's grip on power is slipping. They don't need press releases or public scandals to tell them what's happening. They've already read the writing on the wall. This gives them a huge advantage in workplaces, relationships, and social groups because they know exactly where to stand and when to move. They also refuse to moralize power. While others waste energy arguing whether power is good or bad, Sigmas are studying how it flows. They know morality is often just another disguise power wears. That doesn't make them unethical. It makes them realistic. They understand that real influence is not about looking strong, but being in the right position at the right moment, with the right leverage. And because they don't get caught up in illusions, they rarely become victims of power plays themselves. This unnerves people. It's unsettling to realize someone can see through your image, your authority, or your reputation, and know exactly how fragile it really is. But that's the Sigma's edge. He doesn't fear power. He understands it. And that understanding makes him impossible to control. Number 3, they learn by subtraction. Most people think intelligence is about collecting as much knowledge as possible. Books, courses, quotes, information, opinions. They hoard it like a library, convinced that the more they stack up, the smarter they'll appear. Sigma males move in the opposite direction. Their intelligence doesn't come from piling on. It comes from stripping away. They study something, not to collect every angle, but to eliminate the fluff, the noise, and the distractions until only the raw essence remains. This makes their thinking sharper and far more dangerous. While others drown in details, the Sigma is already cutting through the fat, asking, what's the one thing here that actually matters? It's not about how much he knows, but about how much irrelevant clutter he's discarded. That's why his conclusions often sound brutally simple, because he's already done the hard work of subtraction, the kind most people never dare to do. Take arguments, for example. Most people pile on evidence, stories, and emotional appeals to prove a point. A Sigma listens, filters, and then dismantles everything until only the core truth is left. Suddenly, all the extra noise that others relied on looks childish. Or in business, while others chase trends, apps, and buzzwords, the Sigma quietly isolates the real driver of success and focuses on that. To outsiders, it looks almost unfair, as if he has some secret shortcut. In reality, his shortcut is knowing what to ignore. This style of intelligence is unsettling because it exposes how much of life is built on distractions and illusions. Most people don't want to face raw truths. They prefer comforting complexity. The Sigma, however, strips things down to the bone. That makes conversations with him feel intense, because he won't let you hide behind excuses, overthinking, or pretty lies. He'll boil it down until you're staring at reality without padding, and that's what makes his intelligence terrifying. He doesn't outsmart people by adding more. He outsmarts them by removing everything that doesn't matter. When he's done, all that's left is truth, sharp and undeniable. And in a world addicted to noise, Someone who can see that clearly is both fascinating and dangerous. Number 4, they don't confuse knowledge with noise. Most people mistake being informed for being intelligent. They binge headlines, podcasts, endless social media takes, and think they're smart because they've consumed more. But all they've really done is drown themselves in noise. Sigma males don't fall into that trap. Their minds act like a scalpel, cutting through the overload and extracting only what is essential, useful, or strategic. This ruthless filtering is what makes their intelligence so unnerving. They don't bother remembering trivial updates or surface-level gossip because they know it has zero impact on reality. Instead, they lock onto the one detail that matters, the kind of detail everyone else overlooked but later realized was the turning point. That's why their recall feels frightening. They'll pull out a precise fact, a phrase you said months ago, or a flaw in your logic that seemed invisible at the time, and use it at exactly the right moment. It's not photographic memory, it's selective mastery. They deliberately decide what deserves storage and what deserves deletion. That's why arguing with them is frustrating. While you're scrambling to recall fragments of half-remembered information, the Sigma is calmly bringing forward razor-sharp points he stored months ago because he knew they'd eventually be useful. He doesn't remember everything. He remembers what matters. This is also why Sigmas rarely look overwhelmed in a world drowning in data. Where most people are paralyzed by too much information, the Sigma's brain is already filtering like a surgeon. He doesn't mistake volume for value. He knows that 99% of what we consume daily is just noise, entertaining, distracting, but ultimately worthless. By discarding it, he frees his mind to focus only on patterns, truths, and strategies that actually give him an edge. What unsettles people is that this filtering makes him unpredictable. You never know what he's chosen to remember or how he'll use it. But when he finally reveals it, the precision cuts deep. In a society where people confuse being noisy with being knowledgeable, the Sigma's surgical memory doesn't just stand out, it feels dangerous. Because when someone only remembers the things that matter, they always strike with unnerving accuracy. Number 5, they're not seduced by consensus. When most people see a crowd cheering, they assume the idea being celebrated must be right. It's a psychological trap, safety in numbers, validation through applause. Sigma males are immune to that hypnosis. Consensus doesn't impress them, it irritates them. The louder the agreement, the more their mind goes to work, tearing it apart. Instead of clapping along, they're scanning the holes, the contradictions, and the blind spots hidden under all that noise. This makes them unsettling in group settings. While everyone else is nodding in harmony, the Sigma is sitting quietly, already 3 steps into dismantling the truth everyone just swallowed whole. He doesn't resist consensus out of rebellion. He resists it because he knows that group agreement often masks laziness, manipulation, or fear of standing out. To him, agreement is not proof, it's usually a red flag. That independence unnerves people because conformity is how most survive. Entire careers, friendships, even families are built on just go with the flow. But the Sigma doesn't flow. He questions the river itself. And once he points out that the crowd might be wrong, others suddenly feel exposed for following without thinking. It makes people uncomfortable to realize the safe option was actually mindless submission, and that one person in the room had the courage to dissect it while everyone else bowed. What makes this more terrifying is that Sigmas rarely announce their dissent right away. They'll let the room celebrate, let the consensus grow fat and arrogant, and then calmly slide a single observation across the table that punctures the whole illusion. That one observation is often enough to make the group falter because it exposes just how fragile their agreement really was. In a world addicted to belonging, the Sigma's refusal to be seduced by consensus is both threatening and magnetic. Threatening, because it forces people to question themselves. Magnetic, because deep down, most wish they had the same courage to think independently. The Sigma doesn't just walk away from groupthink, he dismantles it, and that's why his presence unsettles the crowd, even when he says almost nothing at all. Number 6, they can intellectually starve out opponents. Arguing with a Sigma male doesn't feel like a heated exchange. It feels like slowly drowning. Most people, when debating, throw everything they've got at once. They raise their voices, pile on examples, scatter their energy in 100 directions, hoping to overwhelm the other person. The Sigma does the exact opposite. He withholds. He doesn't chase every argument. He waits. He doesn't give you counterpoints on every claim. He starves the conversation of oxygen until you panic and overexpose yourself. This is what makes debating with him so suffocating. You think you're dominating because he's quiet, unbothered, and letting you talk. But in reality, he's dissecting you. He's tracking your contradictions, the emotional slips in your tone, the weak scaffolding in your logic. By saying less, he forces you to say more than you intended, more than is safe, more than you can defend. And in that surplus, you hang yourself. The terrifying part is that his silence isn't passive. It's predatory. It has weight. The longer he lets you speak, the more desperate you feel to fill the gaps, and the more mistakes you make. By the time he finally responds, it's surgical. A single, precise strike that collapses your whole structure. He doesn't need a barrage of points. He only needs one point delivered at the exact moment you're weakest. This tactic makes many opponents quit before the debate even finds momentum. They walk away frustrated, claiming he's arrogant, dismissive, or too difficult to argue with. In reality, they suffocated under the weight of his patience. He never met them at their pace. He forced them into his. That's why his intelligence feels intimidating. He doesn't fight with noise. He fights with emptiness. He denies you the rhythm you expect in a debate. And because most people depend on constant feedback to feel secure, his refusal to engage on their terms leaves them disoriented and drained. To argue with a Sigma is to realize that sometimes the deadliest move is not striking harder. It's starving your opponent until they collapse under their own effort. Number 7, they detect lies through fractals. Most people look for lies in the obvious places: shifty eyes, fidgeting hands, nervous smiles. Those are cliches, and good liars have learned how to mask them. Sigma males don't waste time on surface tells like that. Their intelligence operates on a deeper, more intricate level. They don't look for single signs of deception. They look for fractals, tiny, repeating inconsistencies in someone's tone, timing, or word choice that unconsciously form a pattern. A fractal in nature is a pattern that repeats itself on different scales. The Sigma's brain uses the same principle when analyzing people. It's not that someone slipped once. They slipped the same way 3 times in slightly different contexts. It's not that their story changed. It changed with the same type of gap each time. These micro-patterns are invisible to most but glaring to the Sigma, because his mind is wired to spot rhythm and repetition where others see random noise. This makes his lie detection almost unnerving. The person lying may not even realize they're leaking the same inconsistency over and over. A pause before answering certain questions, an unusual word they use when improvising, a sudden uptick in formality when hiding something. The Sigma notices these fractals and quietly stores them. He doesn't confront right away. He waits until the pattern is undeniable. Then he exposes it in a way that feels like he's been reading the liar's mind. It's terrifying because it feels supernatural, but it's not. It's pure observation combined with patience. Where others rely on gut feeling or guesswork, the Sigma builds a mental map of your communication style. He knows how you talk when you're calm, when you're excited, and when you're trying to manipulate. Once he's mapped you, any deviation becomes a signal. By the time you think you're fooling him, he's already catalogued your inconsistencies like a scientist with a specimen. And because he operates below the radar, liars never see it coming. They assume his calmness means he bought their story. In reality, he's already spotted the pattern and is deciding how and when to use it. That ability to detect lies through fractals makes his intelligence not just sharp, but quietly dangerous. Number 8, they're masters of emotional camouflage. Most people broadcast their emotions whether they want to or not. Their face, tone, and body language give them away, and even amateurs can pick up on it. Sigma males, however, don't leak information that easily. Their emotional control isn't just self-discipline, it's a deliberate, learned skill. They can switch off the usual cues people rely on to read someone's mood, leaving others guessing whether they're angry, amused, or completely indifferent. This isn't about being robotic or emotionally numb, it's about strategy. Sigmas know emotions are data, and data is power. Show too much of it, and you give manipulators a blueprint for how to influence you. By camouflaging their emotions, they deny people access to their internal state. They can be furious and still look calm, suspicious but still appear neutral, unimpressed yet outwardly polite. That blank surface forces everyone else to fill in the blanks, and usually they guess wrong. This terrifies manipulators, who depend on reading emotional tells to adjust their tactics. They're used to seeing someone flinch, soften, or get agitated, which gives them a path to push further. With a Sigma, there's nothing to grab onto. They might try to provoke a reaction and get nothing but stillness. They might expect defensiveness and get a steady, unreadable gaze. That uncertainty breaks their rhythm. It's like fighting an opponent whose movements you can't predict, because there are no visible movements at all. The power of this emotional camouflage is that it gives the Sigma control over timing. He can choose exactly when to reveal emotion for maximum effect, whether to build trust, create tension, or dismantle someone's confidence. When he finally does show anger, amusement, or empathy, it lands harder because it's rare and deliberate, not automatic. In a world where most people are transparent by default, a Sigma's ability to mask his emotional state makes him feel untouchable. He's not cold, he's unreadable. And for anyone trying to manipulate or control him, that unreadability is terrifying, because you can't play chess with someone whose pieces you can't even see. Number 9, they think in long shadows. Most people plan in short bursts, what to do today, how to win this week, maybe a vague vision for the next year. Sigma males think in a completely different time scale. Their intelligence operates in what you could call long shadows. They aren't looking at just the next move. They're studying how the board will look long after everyone else has stopped paying attention. While others are scrambling for quick wins, the Sigma is already laying foundations for victories years down the line. This long horizon thinking is what makes their moves feel almost invisible. Rivals don't even realize they're being maneuvered until the trap is already locked. It's not manipulation in the cartoonish sense, it's architecture. They build circumstances, relationships, and systems that quietly shift over time. By the time anyone notices, the Sigma isn't fighting for position. He owns it. What's unsettling is how patient this makes them. They'll sit still while others rush ahead, knowing that burning energy on short-term battles weakens long-term power. While competitors celebrate small wins, the Sigma is stacking quiet advantages. A connection here, a skill there, a piece of information stored away for later. seemingly insignificant actions that only make sense when seen years later as part of a larger design. This isn't just about career or money. Even in personal relationships, the Sigma applies the same principle. He's not looking for temporary leverage. He's thinking about dynamics months or years from now. That's why people often feel like he predicted an outcome. He didn't predict it. He planned for it. And because he's thinking in long shadows, he's almost impossible to rush or corner. Deadlines, pressure, and manufactured urgency, these tactics don't work on him because his time horizon is bigger than the crisis. He knows most storms pass, most people burn out, and most threats collapse under their own weight. That calm patience unnerves others because it feels like he's not even playing the same game. By the time rivals figure out what's happening, the Sigma has already shifted the board to his advantage. That's why his intelligence feels so dangerous. He's not just smart in the moment, he's smart over time. And time, more than anything else, is where real power lives. Number 10, they process betrayal. Like data, not drama. When most people are betrayed, they erupt. Rage, tears, revenge fantasies, dramatic outbursts. The betrayal consumes them, and in the chaos they often make reckless choices that only hurt them further. Sigma males don't give betrayal that kind of emotional control. They process it like data. To them, a betrayal isn't an earthquake. It's a report, a file, a case study that needs to be examined for patterns and causes. Instead of asking, why me? Their mind goes to, how did this happen? What was missed? What leverage was used? What does this reveal about the betrayer's true nature? They break it down like a puzzle, extracting lessons instead of bleeding out in emotional hysteria. By staying cold, they preserve energy that most people waste on drama. And that composure is terrifying to others because it feels inhuman to remain that calm while being stabbed in the back. This ability unsettles both enemies and allies. Enemies expect retaliation. They brace for explosions, apologies, or at least visible anger. Instead, they're met with silence and analysis, which is far more unnerving. Allies, on the other hand, are shaken because they realize the Sigma doesn't attach blindly. His loyalty isn't naive or emotional, it's calculated. If someone close betrays him, he doesn't spiral. He quietly updates his understanding and adjusts accordingly. That cold detachment can feel brutal because once you're filed under untrustworthy, you're gone for good. What makes this even more dangerous is that the Sigma rarely seeks petty revenge. He doesn't lash out impulsively, but he never forgets either. Betrayal becomes stored knowledge, shaping how he navigates future relationships, how he builds defenses, and how he spots similar patterns in others. In the long run, betrayal makes him smarter, harder to fool, and even less penetrable. That's why his response feels terrifying, because it's not reactive, it's adaptive. He doesn't play the victim or the fool, he plays the strategist. And in a world where most people weaponize drama to deal with pain, the Sigma's cold, data-driven approach to betrayal makes him look untouchable. Worse still, it means betraying him is never just a momentary act. It's a permanent entry into a system that quietly calculates your consequences. Number 11, they master strategic forgetting. Most people try to remember everything, every insult, every mistake, every tiny detail, even when those memories serve no purpose but to weigh them down. Sigma males take the opposite approach. Their intelligence isn't cluttered with useless baggage because they practice what can only be called strategic forgetting. They deliberately discard information that weakens them, distracts them, or wastes mental energy, and they only keep what sharpens their edge. This isn't forgetfulness, it's discipline. If a memory fuels self-doubt, they starve it. If an event has no bearing on their future, they drop it. If a detail has no strategic value, it's deleted. Over time, This makes their thinking frighteningly precise. While others are stumbling over the debris of old grudges, regrets, and irrelevant trivia, the Sigma's mind is streamlined, clean, efficient, and sharp. What unnerves people is how cold this feels. They might expect the Sigma to obsess over an insult or replay a painful moment, but instead, he treats it like junk mail, trashed without hesitation. To him, clinging to disempowering memories is like carrying stones in your pockets and wondering why you sink. By cutting them loose, he moves faster and thinks clearer than those who hold on. At the same time, he keeps memories that strengthen him. The useful lesson from failure. The one phrase someone revealed in anger that exposes their true character. The small detail others dismissed, but that fits perfectly into a larger pattern. He remembers those with startling accuracy, pulling them out at exactly the right moment, as if his mind is designed to weaponize information rather than drown in it. This selective memory makes him feel almost inhuman because it's so unlike how most people operate. Where others are tangled in emotional clutter, he moves like someone who's trimmed all excess weight. And that's what makes his intelligence terrifying. Not just what he knows, but what he chooses not to know. The ability to erase weakness and store only strength means he's always playing with a sharpened mind, and everyone else is fighting with dull, heavy baggage they never had the discipline to forget. Number 12, they can play weak without losing self. Pride ruins most people. The moment they feel underestimated, they rush to prove themselves, to correct the insult, to show their strength. Sigma males don't play that game. Their intelligence allows them to do something most egos can't handle. They can convincingly play weak without ever losing a sense of who they are. They can act clueless, appear lost, or seem like they don't understand, all while quietly calculating in the background. This makes them unpredictable in a way that terrifies people who try to size them up. Manipulators, bullies, or even rivals often mistake this act as genuine weakness. They relax, they reveal too much, or they underestimate him completely. That's when the Sigma flips the switch. The moment it actually matters, he drops the disguise and reveals a sharpness that blindsides everyone who thought they had the upper hand. The shock comes not just from his hidden strength, but from the realization that he chose when to show it. It's not deception for the sake of trickery, it's strategy. By lowering others' guard, he gains time, information, and positioning. And unlike most people who crumble under the shame of being perceived as weak, he doesn't care. His sense of self isn't tied to appearances. Whether people think he's sharp or stupid, dominant or submissive, makes no difference to him. What matters is the advantage he secures by letting them believe whatever suits his purpose. This ability to slip in and out of roles makes him unnerving in any environment. One moment, he looks like the quiet observer nobody needs to worry about. The next, he's dismantling an entire argument or shifting control of a situation without warning. You can't predict him because you never know if he's genuinely holding back or just waiting for the perfect moment to strike. That's why this kind of intelligence feels terrifying. Most people are bound by ego. They can't afford to look weak even for a second. The Sigma can because his self-worth isn't fragile. He knows strength isn't about constant display. It's about control. And when you meet someone who can play weak yet never actually be weak, you realize you're facing a kind of mind that's nearly impossible to outmaneuver. Sigma male intelligence isn't flashy, loud, or easily recognized. It doesn't need applause, accolades, or constant validation. Its power lies in subtlety, in the quiet precision with which it dissects reality, reads patterns, and moves unseen. While others scramble to prove themselves or react impulsively, the Sigma observes, filters, and calculates. He doesn't just see the surface. He sees the machinery beneath it all, the invisible strings, the patterns that govern people, systems, and outcomes. His mind operates like a scalpel, cutting through noise, fear, and illusion with surgical precision. What makes it terrifying isn't just what he knows. It's how he uses what he chooses to remember, what he deliberately forgets, and how he remains unpredictable in a world obsessed with predictability. He can starve opponents into exposing themselves, camouflage his emotions, play weak without ever being weak, and think years ahead while everyone else counts hours. Every move, every silence, every observation is deliberate. To encounter him is to feel the weight of a mind that refuses to play by anyone else's rules, a mind that operates with patience, clarity, and ruthless subtlety. And here's the truth that unnerves most people. Sigma intelligence isn't about dominance for show. It's about control without display. It's the kind of intelligence that quietly bends circumstances, anticipates betrayal, and leverages power without anyone realizing they've already been maneuvered. It's the intelligence of someone who understands life's rules, systems, and human nature so deeply that conventional tactics, bribes, intimidation, manipulation simply fail. In a world addicted to noise, ego, and immediate gratification, the Sigma's mind is a storm in slow motion. It's calm, unreadable, and precise, but devastating when unleashed. Those who underestimate it do so at their own peril. The Sigma doesn't need to announce his brilliance. It announces itself in the wake of every outcome he silently orchestrates. If this deep dive into the raw, strategic, and quietly terrifying intelligence of Sigma males grabbed your attention, don't let it end here. Hit that subscribe button to stay connected with more insights that cut through the noise. Show some love by liking the video and let us know your thoughts in the comments. Which Sigma trait shook you the most? Finally, share this with anyone who needs to understand the subtle genius that moves unseen but always lands perfectly. Your support keeps the channel sharp, focused, and full of content that truly challenges the way we see the world.